Here. Just wanting to walk you through part one of the next 2 weeks' work. So we're going to have this, where we're going to be looking at PE structures and kind of working on something that's really important as we move forward in modern studies, and that's the way to structure your exam questions. That's something Miss Crothers and I have seen. There's been an area where we can improve, and a lot of that's just not having a teacher right there to work with you and talk to you and things like that. So hopefully by talking through this and you guys completing this exercise, you'll be able to be in a little bit better shape as far as getting an idea of sort of what we're looking for. It could be a bit of a struggle sometimes. Just this is just one of those things where we don't have you guys in front of us where we can just explain things really quickly, and we end up getting into a wee bit of trouble. So I wanted to take a bit of time to make a lesson on just how to structure a PEE. You're also going to get a normal workbook like what we have. Both of these are going to be due on the 30th, so it's basically 2 weeks to get these things done. So you got plenty of time. I don't want you to rush. I want you to really focus on quality instead of getting through the tasks. So as you get done, I know I'm going to have assignments set up and different things for you to turn it online. And yeah, so as we go through, so the next booklet is on alcohol and drugs. So that's kind of where we're going to be going, and that's pretty much going to take us up to summer. Now, as we go through this, we are going to be looking at understanding how to structure a KU question and identify some examples and construct an answer using PE. So I really want to focus on going through exactly what we need to do. So when you look at it, here's an example of a structure. So it might be a good idea to copy this down. So you got drug addiction can cause crime. As addicts need to pay for their drugs, they need to steal to fund their habit. For example, those with drug use dependency are more likely to be arrested for crimes such as burglary, shoplifting, robbery, handling, blah, 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 blah. It's a really good example. All right, so that's the kind of structure we're going to do. And then another thing I'm going to ask you to do is a bit working backwards, and I think you can get a good idea, is if you really focus on the point answer, it's really easy, I think, to go backwards, or it can be easy, it can be tough, and figure out what the question may be asking. So if you look at this, you got drug addiction can cause crime. The question is probably going to be explain in detail two types of crime, or two causes of crime. Right? So that's where you would go in and you would do your PE. That's something I'm going to ask you guys to do, is create a question in a little while as well. All right, so your PEs are, they can be 4 markers, 6 markers, or 8 markers. Your 4 markers are normally no more than 2, so it's a less than sign. 4 marker is less than 2, or it's just basically 2 PEs. So you do quick 2 PE. You want to do 2 PEs on a 4 marker. They don't normally have quite as much detail, but yeah, 6 marker is 2. At least you want to get 2 really solid PEs. You can't, like, they'll normally say up to 2 reasons or something like that. An 8 marker is normally, I know it says 4 there, but it's normally 3 really good PEs. So that would bring you up. If you got 3 PEs, you get a mark for each point explained example. That would put you at 9 marks, so you have 1 to spare at the end. So you really just need to focus on having the detail there, and if you follow the structure, it sorts itself out. All right, here's SQA guidelines. If you just list points, if you only do the first part, you can only get 2 marks on a question. It doesn't matter how good your points are, you only get 2 marks. So that's where I keep sending back feedback, where it's just kind of like, make sure that you get your point really specific and make it where it's a strong one, because that's worth the mark. And whenever you get an exam, 1 mark goes quite a long way, and if you can get one just by changing the structure of your answer, it's completely worth it to do it. And that's what we're doing this today. If you have a strong point or a weaker one, focus time on the stronger one. That means, like, if you feel more stronger, you can develop that more. Focus on the stronger one, because that's where you're going to be able to get your other marks. Now, if you look at on your weaker one, you still need to include that if you don't know lots of information, because you will get marked. So for example, if you have a 6 marker, you have 1 really good, well-developed point that you can make with all your PEEs with really good examples, and then on the next one, you just have a point and maybe an example or something that's not quite as developed as what it could be, you'll probably just on structure alone get 2 marks off that second set, and you end up with 5 out of 6, even though you only really felt comfortable with half of it. Right, so in this task, this is your first task that I need you to do, is matching up PEE examples. And you got your workbook over here as well. So basically, Crime in Scotland, like these are examples of your points, right? So there's 4 points here. There should be 5, and that's how it would need to go ahead. I see a mistake I made. I'm gonna make sure I update that. Okay, it's all up to date over here, so I'll make sure I save that and get that where your workbook is accurate. All right, so crime in Scotland is low since 1974. Match that to an explain example, then match that to an explain, then match that to an example, which sounds a bit ridiculous. I might tweak that as well because that just sounds silly. Right, so at the end, you'll end up with a PEE, so you have 3 sentences with crime in Scotland is the lowest since 1974. Yeah, and then you match it up and you should have 3 sentences in each one of these. So you should have a total of 5 PEEs that are valid and make sense by the time you get to that. And I want you to type them out or write them out if you prefer. I don't care how you guys turn it in. Some of these are easier to do written out, some of these are easier to do otherwise, but basically go through and structure them in a way, match the examples up, then write it out. Task 2 is take those PEs that I just asked you and make a question. So I talked about that earlier. So one thing that you can look at is focusing on the things. So I did one of them. For number 2, if you look at the points, the question is pretty straightforward. What are the causes of crime? Or explain in detail 2 causes of crime, or something along that line. I just want to know that you're able to go back and see the points, and so it'll help you start to match up what they're trying to ask you for. All right, so you need to write out 5 questions that match. Okay, then I need you to watch a 30-minute long video. All right, it's a panorama. It's talking about murder in the streets. It's really good, well done, and it talks about the impact of crime in the community and different things like that. So it's talking about things that we've already discussed. So when you open that up, I'll update the links and I will find that. Shoot. Right, so I will find the example of that, but basically you watch the video and I'll give you a link to it and answer those, just kind of answer those questions, and as you're watching it, try and get a point and explain an example that all 3 go together. All right, and then the last thing I want you to do is just answer these 3 PEEs. Now number 3 is a bit tricky. All right, so it's a bit of a challenge. So it's not really asking about anything specific, but you're going to have to read into the question. For example, so here we are, explain in detail 3 reasons why crime is higher in deprived areas. I want you to take a moment and think about problems that match up with causes of crime, right? That match up with causes of crime that you that specifically impact people who live in higher deprived areas. What are some problems that they face that are different from problems that people who don't live in deprived areas? So deprived meaning like not a lot of income and things like that. Okay, so what I will do is I'm going to post this video. I'm going to update the link to make sure that you have something. Hopefully I'll be able to find something. If not, I'll work it out. And we will go from there. So this is part 1 of your work for the week. And yeah, so especially on these questions, on these PE, make sure you look back at your notes and get really good answers. But try to focus on point. This is, explain, this means, and example, straightforward, for example. Okay guys, see you soon.